Welcome to Ready, Set, Real Estate, where we will help empower and educate you on many different aspects of real estate, finance, and investing. Each week, we will expand your knowledge and uncover hidden truths. We will break down real-world scenarios and study actual how-to strategies. Anyone can buy real estate, but together we'll ensure you make smart real estate investment decisions. Now, here's your host, award-winning author, international speaker, and real estate educator, Gillett.
Every time I hear that, I feel like I'm supposed to hear. Just sounds really cool when I hear the intro. It's like, oh, is that little old me? Listen, happy Wednesday to you all. We have a fantastic show, and I promised I would start to bring back guests on the show. And so Kevin Sayles is my first guest for 2024 since COVID. Wow. So, someone special. Yes, I brought someone special. I'll bring him on shortly. He's back there in the green room. I can see you. Hi, thanks for checking in. Your assistant just called and said you were in a meeting. I was just going to text and be like, it's okay. Just come on when you can, and we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm excited, you all, that we will be talking about title insurance today. Listen, if you do this, if you're new at this, see, this is what I love about this. Whether you're new at this, you're a veteran, you're an investor, you've got to deal with some folks at title. You've got to know some things about title. And if you don't, then you're at the right place. So make sure you check in and say hi, say hello. Press 1 lets me know you're here. Press 2 lets me know you shared it. I won't get into our whole, quarterly goals and all that fun stuff because I want to get right into what we should be doing. So I love that we've got a good live audience today. So let's just remind folks who are tuning in and listening on the radio podcast, we are on episode 242, although there's like over 500 episodes on the platform. Just go check out the archive, everything on real estate. And I've been consistent in pumping out new episodes every week. So that's a good thing. I think that's my little craziness about showing up and sticking it out. So we'll be talking about the untangling. Oh, no, that's not. That was last week's show. No, today is, let me grab it real quick, Unveiling the Essentials of Title Insurance with ours truly, Kevin Sayles. Let me do disclaimers, Kevin, before I bring you on. I'm going to do disclaimers real quick. So the information provided on this show should not be considered legal or tax advice. So please seek legal and tax advice from those reputable licensed professionals. If you've got a specific situation that I know folks love to come on and say, what about this? And I got this going on and someone did this to my house. And listen, not on the show. We appreciate your general questions or your specific questions, but you've got to consult someone specifically about your situation because it is a case by case. So let me jump into introducing you all to industry colleague Kevin Sayles, VP probate specialist at Lawyers Title. He's obtained a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Laverne, magna cum laude, and an MBA from the University of Redlands. He started his career in the real estate industry by working in banking, folks. Listen, in banking, he knew where to start with the money, my kind of person, beginning in 1993. So we're talking about someone who's been around, has got, oh my gosh, he's seen this market go through highs and lows. So this is going to be so much fun, especially as we talk about what's going on now. And while working for some of the nation's largest savings institutions, Kevin has received extensive training in lending, sales, appraisals, banking back office, escrow, and title, of course, probate, retail, and commercial banking. Kevin has also brought his extensive experience to the title industry in early 1999. I like that he's up in the 90s. As a probate specialist, Kevin reviews several files, mine included, and scenarios daily that involve deceased parties, probate, trusts, and estates, my favorite, court orders, etc. He has a never say die attitude and knows how to close the deals. He's also a fellow author too. We'll get into that shortly. He has estimated that he's closed well over 15,000 transactions while working as a title representative. He uses his knowledge and firsthand experience to help close even the toughest transactions. I've heard in the industry, right? Anyone can close an easy deal, but it's those real folks that can close the tough ones. And you've got to have a strong team with you. Kevin has authored 2 real estate books. Probate Real Estate Sales 101 was his first book and an Amazon bestseller. His second book is The Wholesaler's Guide to Closing Real Estate Deals. Kevin currently helps attorneys, real estate agents, and investors close transactions as, again, a vice president and probate expert at Lawyers Title. Please help welcome my guy, Kevin Sayles, to the show. Kevin, how are you?
I'm very good, man. I didn't realize I did all that stuff. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I appreciate you.
You're absolutely welcome. This is so much fun. So just so you know, we're live streaming. We're everywhere. We're on the Meta. We're on LinkedIn. Someone chimed in on LinkedIn and said, I'm looking forward to jumping in and talking about title. Cool. So that was shout out to, I missed his name, but I'm gonna bring him back real quick. So let me see. I was trying to find his comment. So where was he real quick? I love it when people get in and they're like, all right, Lisa's coming on. There's something good going on. So that's always fun. I'll find his comment real quick. And we're on Instagram live, by the way. I love when IG allow the platforms to come in and stream. So that's always great. So we're everywhere. And then we replay on podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. We've got quite a following on iTunes, which is really cool. And you're worldwide, man. This is international. We've got a fan base, believe it or not, in Germany.
That's cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool. So yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited that you're here. So, bum. I don't know if you know I have this. So my green screen's here. You can't really see it. There it is. This is your book here. I definitely had to grab my copy. Nice, easy read. When I was dealing with a probate back a couple years ago, I was like, okay, I can't keep calling Kevin. You just can't keep bothering people. You gotta read some stuff. You gotta get to the 50-yard line, as I share with my folks. Meet me halfway, and then we can kind of build from there. And I feel like that's what your book does. It helps someone come to the 50-yard line with some basics and at least be able to expand on the conversation of probate and how it relates to the real estate transaction, because there's the legal and the title and the real property moving parts that, there's a lot of people involved to make that work out successfully. So Kevin.
Yes.
1993, 99. Wow. It's long time.
Yeah. Right out of college, I got a job in banking. And it was a management training program. They paid me almost nothing. I basically went from a job working 25 hours a week in a grocery store in a union with the best benefits, everything you can imagine, to a full-time job making the exact same pay, and it was pennies. So, but I knew that it was an opportunity to learn. And I mean, in that program, I've done 2 appraisals. I mean, obviously, I didn't really do them. There's an appraiser that I do, but I took the measurements. I went out and was looking at the photos. I did step by step, almost the whole thing of 2 appraisals. I mean, I worked in our credit card processing. I worked in our underwriting, all these different things to really train people in a short amount of time to be a branch manager of a bank. It was an 18-month program. It was like getting a master's degree. Because I was doing presentations for the president of our division and for all the regional managers. And all these things were requirements as part of this program. And it just really helped a lot for me to learn the details about what we do. And actually in that banking experience is where I got my foundation for probate. I got my foundation for lending. I got my underwriting experience. I had underwriting authority at I was either 23 or 24 years old. I had underwriting approval, and I mean, it was crazy. So I just learned a ton in that time. It was
You're
really good.
official. I mean, when you hear underwriting, someone gets into underwriting because that's the person who gets to, wave the wand for this. so to say, so to speak, and make things happen or not. So, I have a lot of, to underwriters.
As a young 23, 24-year-old, however, I must have been 24. As a young 24 or 25-year-old, it was almost scary because we had system generated approval. So the system would approve you, or it goes to an underwriter that's all they do is underwrite. But in my position, at that time I was an assistant manager. In my position as an assistant manager, I could override them saying no and give you a yes.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa, do I really want, I mean, if they're saying no, do I really want to say yes? But it gave me a lot of experience. You have to know more about what you're doing if you have that level of authority. And so it just gave me a lot of focus, made me focus on what I was doing, what I needed to learn. But it's interesting because even though that was loan underwriting, I work with my title files the same way because title is underwriting also. It's underwriting a risk, right? That's a general term. And so in title insurance, when I'm underwriting files, I take the same mentality I took back in lending. Like, okay, we want X, but if we can't get X, how else can we get this achieved?
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at all of my title files when I'm dealing with a difficult situation or a problem or a file that's been turned down by another title company. I kind of approach it that way.
Right. Shout out to our IG folks. I see CJ in there. He's on IG. Yvette says, good afternoon, Lisa. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. We're having a title conversation today. So let's just go on with basics, and then we'll work our way up to high level. I definitely got to run to a meeting. I'm sure you've got today a lot of stuff going on. So thank you again for taking the time to come on. We were trying to make this happen about 2 weeks ago, but I was like, I got to bring you on. I got to commit. I got to keep going. So I was just doing my stuff. But so thank you. Thank you again for making the time to come on and just pouring into us. So this is a real estate community here from all over. Folks know, this is a reminder, I'm California license specific. Kevin specifically works in California. So what we share is California stuff, California based, although we do have folks connected in all over. And so title was probably general across the board in terms of how it works and what it serves to do. What I have learned when I once upon a time reciprocated my license to Georgia, Kevin, I realized that I couldn't just order a profile without paying for it. So like, oh, I can't just, you got to pay for almost everything. And I was like, oh yeah, it's different out here outside of California. So I now know not to take you all and the services and the support that you do for real estate professionals. I know not to take that for granted, especially when I got a call yesterday from a prospective client who says that they were trying to charge her $50 for the prelim. So with that, I will say, talk to us. Title insurance. What is title insurance?
Very good question. So if you think about title, car title, people kind of know what that is. Car title is the ownership of a car, right? And title for a real property is kind of the same thing. It's the ownership of the property. And there's numerous different rights that go along with that ownership. For instance, someone could be not the owner, but they rent the property. Well, they have certain rights, especially if you're dealing in LA. Nowadays, it seems like the tenants have more rights than the owners have. But we won't get into that because that's a whole different show, I would guess. But there's all kinds of rights that go with the property. There's rights that could have been given up or dedicated to a city or dedicated to someone else or could have been leased out even before the house that you're dealing with was on that land. So the rights go back all the way. I was looking at just this morning, I was looking at a prelim, and on this prelim, it said reservations from a patent. What does that mean? A patent is the first transfer from government-owned land to a private individual. So what that means is back in the 1800s or early 1900s, whenever this no longer became government land and was first deeded to a person, something was reserved. And what does that mean? That means they might say, okay, you get this property, but we got to keep this area for a street because later there's going to be a street here. Or you get this property, but this back area, we need that to access the utilities that are going to come in the future, something like that. So there's various different rights that can be given up with a property, such as easements, encroachments, meaning another property going onto your land or you going onto another property's land. These things are all issues that affect the ownership of the property, and we do a disclosure on that. So one of the best ways to think about it is like this. Most people are familiar with a home inspection. When you buy a property, you get a home inspection. An inspector goes out and looks at the property and says, oh, okay, this wall has a crack in the wall, so you need to get that fixed or look at getting that fixed. Or the plumbing is old galvanized pipes, so you might want to consider replacing that with copper. They give you a report on the physical condition of the property. We as a title company, we give you a report also. We give you a report on the ownership condition of the property. What rights may have been given up to someone else, what rights are not there. For instance, when I take out a loan, I've given a bank the right to take my property, the power to sell my property if I don't abide by our loan agreement, pay them back on time. So we give a report that gives all the ownership rights that may or may not come along with this property or whatever may affect the property in that. It's kind of the best way to think about it. And what I always tell people is think of your title report as a photo, right? If you were to take a photo of me right now, I'm wearing a black shirt. It doesn't matter what shirt I was wearing yesterday. It doesn't matter what shirt I told Lisa I was going to wear. It doesn't matter what shirt I wanted to wear. What matters is this is the shirt I'm wearing. This is the shirt that's going to be in the picture. And so I talk to people that people often make the mistake. I'm dealing with it. Well, we resolved some issues on a file yesterday where they were thinking about what should be the situation on title instead of reading the report where we tell you this is the situation. They were thinking about what it should have been. Well, it's supposed to be. Well, it doesn't matter what's supposed to happen. It doesn't matter that I was supposed to wear a blue shirt today. If that shirt was dirty and I put on the black one, this is what I'm wearing. So I always tell people, think of your title report as a photograph of the ownership conditions of that property. It's what's there, not what should be there, not what grandma intended to be there, not what you thought was going to be there. It's what's actually there, and take it for letter of the law. Because when people assume, oh, I thought that was taken care of, that's when you end up having problems.
Right, right. So here's a question I often get, and you probably get. Do you have to buy title insurance when you are transacting in a real estate purchasing?
That's a great question. That's a great question. You do not have to buy title insurance. There's no law. Now, if you're getting a loan, the lender is going to require a lender's policy of title insurance.
Okay.
When I wrote that book, the publisher and everything, they had me count how many transactions have you closed. Back then, a very conservative, this is from 2015, a very conservative estimate was 15,000 transactions. I am certain I'd be willing to bet money that I know that I've closed more than 20,000 transactions by now, for sure, 100%. Okay. I have, in my career, there was one time where a person was not going to get title insurance. I think ultimately they ended up getting title insurance, but they did not want to. As a title company, if you do not want title insurance, you have to put it in writing that you don't want title insurance. And there's a lot you have to go through because it's very, very, very not smart to not get insurance.
Going against the advice of brokers, real estate professionals,
attorneys, everyone. Yeah. It does not make much sense. The reason why is who knows what issues are on that property. I work every day for a living in title insurance. I can read a prelim in 30 seconds. And I can't tell you now what liens are on my property. I don't know what's on there. I don't know what easements are there. I'd have to look at a preliminary title report to know that. So those are things that are disclosed during your escrow period because title insurance is requested. Those things get disclosed to you as a buyer of a property. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to buy a property without title insurance. I mean, I've said for years, the only time I would put my name on title without title insurance is if it was a property from my mom or dad or someone real close to me like that. If I was buying a property from my brother, I would get title insurance. If it's my mom or dad and I'm inheriting it, maybe then I wouldn't. But any other time I'm getting property, I'm going to get title insurance. It just makes sense.
See that opened us for another question when you say, okay, my brother, my folks, my dad, because I think you and I, we were on a deal or we did something similar. And I think son got on title And then this is where people need to understand when you are adding yourself or removing, isn't there something about you, everything that person is liable for is now attached some way, somehow to the property? Talk to us about that, because you casually said, yeah, my brother, and I'll do it. But really, should we?
Yeah, well, actually, what I was saying is I would not do it with my brother.
Okay.
I would only do it if it's my dad giving me a property that I'm going to inherit anyway, right?
Okay.
If I'm spending a single dollar, I'm getting title insurance.
Right
Because
on.
if I'm investing anything into that property, I want to be covered. And I just say, look, follow the big money. There's not a single bank out there that's going to give you a loan for $100,000 and not get title insurance, right?
Mhm.
And so if they want to insure their money, they're not even the owner of the property. They're just giving you a loan. And they have the right to foreclose and take it and sell it on the public. But if they won't do that without title insurance, then why would I buy the property to either invest or live in and not want the same insurance coverage? So the best way I can say it is this. Okay, I'm Kevin Sayles. You can Google me and find my picture online, or you can look at my business card and see that, or go on the company's website and see, yeah, Kevin Sayles, my picture. You could look at my driver's license. If I pulled it out, it's going to say my name and my photos on there. But here's the question I have for you. So now let's say we've verified that I am Kevin Sayles. How do you know that I'm the Kevin Sayles that owns the property that you're buying?
Oh, now we're getting into statement of information.
Yeah, I'm not the only Kevin Sayles in the United States. I'm not even the only Kevin Sayles in California. Right. Years ago, I Googled my name. There was a 6'9" basketball player. He was like one of the top recruits in the nation. So I could say I'm him. When you see me, you'd know he's not 6'9". That's a joke because I'm really short. But
yeah,
you don't know who in California, especially, normally we don't know who that seller is. We don't know what liens they are. I've had clients that say, no, that's my dad's property. They didn't know dad had a son that they didn't know about, and dad has a child support lien because of that son. They're like, no, he doesn't have that. We talked to the dad. Yeah, I do. That's my son. My other son doesn't know I have another son. But yeah, that is my child, and that top child support lien is mine. So you just don't know 100%. And why would you invest your money as a buyer to live in it, or as an investor? Why would you put your money up without having some insurance that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting?
Right. Very valid point. Shout out to Shantae Earl in the building, one of our real estate colleagues out there, I believe, serving the Rialto area. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's over there on IG tuning in. So let's expand this conversation about statement of information as it relates to getting that photo or that idea of the person you're dealing with or transacting is this person. What kind of information is asked or gathered on the statement of information? And then what does title do, or what does it allow title to do to either confirm, verify that this is the person who owns this property and maybe has all these other issues coming up that we tend to see?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on every transaction, we are going to get a statement of information from the owner, whether it's a sale or a refi. Sometimes on a refi, there might be a page of the loan application we can take in place of it. But generally speaking, we get a statement of information on every transaction. And what that document is, if the person's deceased, then we get their death certificate. But either way, we get their information. What the statement of information is, it's a one-page document. It's going to ask, what's your name, what's your address, any other names you went by, if you've ever been divorced or remarried or anything like that. So it'll have your marital status on it, driver's license number, social security number, where you've lived for the last 10 years, and where you've worked for the last 10 years. We take in all that data, and with that, we compare that to public records and all these big brother type of systems to determine, is this person the same person that owns the property? Is this person the same person that may have a lien or whatever that's out there? The reason it's important, most people don't understand this. There's two categories of liens, I call it. I think I've created.
Y'all. I'm taking notes. Two types of liens, categories of liens.
I think I've kind of created this. I've never heard anyone else train this, but two categories of liens. One category are liens that are recorded against the property. For instance, I go to the bank, I get a loan, they record it against the property. I do an addition, it's illegal. The city comes by and goes, oh, you added on and didn't get permits. They file a lien against that property. My house is vacant, so the weeds grow 3 feet tall. The city comes and cites you and files an abatement. They file that abatement against that property. They're recording it at individual address. Okay? They do it by legal description. The other category of liens are against the owner's name. So, for instance, I don't pay my income taxes, whether state or federal. They file a lien against me. Let's say I get sued over a business dealing, or I don't pay my credit card and they sue me, or there's a car accident and they sue me. They win a lawsuit. That becomes a judgment against me, which therefore attaches to the property that I own. What other things? If I don't pay EDD bills, Employment Development Department, any type of personal lien against me as an individual that they record judgments, tax liens, child support liens, EDD liens, spousal support, they would record that against my name. The difference is if it's against my name, it ends up attaching to all property that I own in the county. If I own 10 properties, that judgment against me will be on all 10 properties. That IRS lien against me will be on all 10 properties. If it's recorded against the property like a loan, it's only on the property I get the loan on. So with the SI, we take that SI and we're going to look for all those liens against the person. We're going to compare all those. And it also helps us with some of the identity theft information so that we can verify who a person is.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And listen, folks, there's a lot in there when we start to discuss about transferring of real estate, right, through the escrow title settlement process, exchange of, seller to buyer, funds and title. And this little thing tends to pop up and change the game when we have to go to the statement of information. And then now it gets exciting because guess what? Your ex wasn't never properly quit claimed or removed off the property, and they've got all these tax lien debts. And now we've got to deal with that, right? Yeah. So share with us.
Can I make a comment about that? So people think, oh, well, that was my ex's liens and he deeded off the property. So when let's say Lisa, let's say you buy a property, I'm your business partner, I come on title with you, and while I'm on title with you, I have a lien. And then later I deed off title. People think, oh, well, he deeded off, so that lien's gone. No, the lien stays there. If our California law didn't work that way, no one would ever pay their bills. If I got liens, I would just deed the property to my son. He gets some liens, deed it to my other son. He gets some liens, deed it to this. No one would ever pay their bills. But what happens is, this happens sometimes. They'll have a business partner. Back when people used to add straw buyers and stuff like that, they add these people to title that they don't really know. Then later they find out that guy had a judgment. That guy had a child support lien, and that lien stays on your property. And people don't understand it, but it's like, yeah, anybody you put on title, while they're on title, if they have a lien against their name, like a judgment, tax lien, etc., or those liens I mentioned earlier, that lien attaches to your property, and it doesn't go away when you take them off title.
Wow.
The lien stays there, so it has to be paid.
That's really good. So let's kick it up a notch, a little high level here, as we tap in a little to probate and title and dealing with administrators. Administrators to have the authority to execute the sale or refinance of a real property, a real estate piece of asset within that estate. Are we gathering statement of information on the administrator, and do the same rules apply that whatever liens are attached to the administrators is now also attached to the estate?
That's an excellent question. And this goes for administrators, a president of a corporation, a trustee of a trust. If they're in a fiduciary position,
okay,
an administrator is the fiduciary, right? Then their liens don't attach to the property because they're not the owner of the property. So John Doe, the administrator of an estate, it's the dead person's estate's property. John Doe, that administrator, if he has a judgment and a tax lien and all that, his liens don't attach to that property. John Doe, president of ABC Corporation, and ABC Corporation is the owner of the property. John Doe's liens won't attach unless there's certain mistakes they've made in how they hold their corporation property, or unless he put the property in his name at some point. Same thing with a trust. Now, Kevin Sayles, if I'm the trustee of my trust, then as the As the trustee, my liens don't attach, but if I'm the settlor or grantor, it's called settler, grantor, or trustor. It means the creator of that trust. Then my liens would attach. So a lot of times people are the trustee and the trustor. But if I create the Kevin Sayles Trust, but I don't want to be the trustee, so I make Lisa Gillett the trustee, your liens would not attach to that property because it's my actual trust. Only my liens would attach to that property.
Mm-hmm.
So but anyone in a fiduciary position where it's not their property, it's someone else's property, and that's clear from the documentation, that person who would act like the administrator, like you mentioned, their liens don't attach. We sometimes will still get an SI from that party, that fiduciary, for the purpose of identity theft protection, to make sure we know the party we're dealing with. But the lien portion of it would not make their liens attach.
Got it. Ooh, that was a great question. I tell you, we'll make our way to high level on this stuff as we go. Yeah. So let's talk about, and I want to be mindful of our time, but there's something bubbling with the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I don't know if you've had a chance, but I imagine there's conversations and there's been, I think, an outreach for public comments from the industry. And so what we're hearing is that under our current administration, presidential administration, who is advocating for more, I guess, getting rid of junk fees and lowering the cost of home ownership for buyers, as we've seen that we've commission structures and everything is, it's like, this is opened up. Well, let's look at everything else on the net sheet and line by line. Let's see what this is. Title has now come up as one of those things that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is proposing, that the buyers should not have to pay for the lender's policy. You mentioned the lender's policy. You got to comment. Can you comment on it, number one?
Yes, I can. And
Okay.
I have an opinion too. So this is one of those things where our legislators, the people that create laws, they can't know everything. They can't know about everything. So if they're going to make a law about the proper way to make shoelaces because there's a new technology in shoelaces, how would you expect them to know the detail on that? If their background is, if Senator Smith owned a car dealership, he might know plenty of laws about cars. He won't know about the shoelaces or about the leather on my chair or about title insurance. And I think that's one of our issues, is that we have people involved in this that don't understand the intricacies. Okay. Now, in terms of who pays for it, who cares who pays for it, right? If you want to say the buyer's not going to pay for it, the lender's going to require it. A lender, if you ever are going to loan your own money and secure it on real estate, it blows my mind if you would do that without title insurance. And I have seen people make I had a client buy a property at a tax sale. He thought he bought a house. What he bought was a 20 by 50 foot area of the driveway. Do the math. That's 1,000 square feet. He bought a 20 foot wide by 50 foot long portion of a driveway. Obviously, you can't build on a driveway because cars have to be able to drive over the driveway. Right. So it was a useless piece of land. He didn't know because he didn't have the research that would normally come in title insurance, right? Okay, long story short is this. To me, that's people that don't understand what title insurance protects you for when they're dealing with it. Now, that's related to California, because I work in California. That's where most of my knowledge is. I've invested in Indiana, Chicago, Florida, and Texas, and Las Vegas, and Nevada. So I've invested in 5 other states. And Nevada is very similar to here, while those other states are quite a bit different. So it can be very different in some other states. Like in Florida, there's surveys that give you some of the protection that we get here from our tech. And I won't say some of the protection, but some of the information that I would see on a survey in Florida is information I might see on the preliminary title report here in California. Okay. So some of the states can be quite different with the information they have. But for California, to me, it's ludicrous to actually propose that maybe we eliminate title insurance. Let me give you an example. Lisa, I've been in the business long enough that I remember when there was a fee called a reconveyance tracking fee. Do you remember the recon tracking fee? I don't know how long you've been in the business, but
Yeah, since '06. So I
So
think I read it someplace. Talk to us.
it was probably gone by then. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a better question. Have you ever seen a situation where something on title was paid off in a previous transaction? A title company paid it off in a previous transaction, but the document still shows up.
Yes.
You can thank the industry trying to get rid of junk fees for that being there.
Oh.
Here's why. Because prior to, I don't know when the recon tracking fee went away. I think it went away sometime in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Prior to that, there was a thing called a recon tracking fee, reconveyance tracking fee. What is the recon tracking fee? Okay, when someone puts a loan on a property, when that loan is paid off by law, the lender is supposed to reconvey it, reconvey it within, I think it's 90 days or something like that. That's a law, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to remove that loan from the property within 90 days. Let's just say, don't quote me on that 90 days, but I think it's 90 days. What the recon tracking fee was, it was a fee of $35 the title company would collect so that after we close our transaction, we can go back and see, did they actually do what they're required to do by law?
Follow up.
If they did not, we could follow up and say, we had collected $35, so we have the money to pay a person to say, hey, lender, you didn't reconvey this, get it reconveyed. And then eventually there was even a document that we could prepare and put on the record that would show that that's paid off. Okay, so no one wanted these junk fees or too many fees in closing, so they eliminated that. So now we no longer have we're a business. We're not a nonprofit organization. We have, everything that we do costs labor and time, et cetera, et cetera. So we no longer have the resources to pay someone to go back on every closed transaction and verify if the lender that got paid off did what they're required to do by law.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's no more recon tracking fee, so we don't track that. So what happens? You constantly have situations. Homeowner says, I paid that off when I did such and such, and we can't find the reconveyance. So guess what? It's still on the title to your property. Remember I said title is like a photograph? It's like a legal snapshot. This is the way the conversation goes. I understand, Mr. Homeowner, that you paid off that loan when you did XYZ refinance. However, the bank never removed the loan from your property. So now, during this transaction, someone has to go back, contact that bank, and say, get rid of this loan on there. My whole point is they were trying to get rid of a garbage fee. And now look at the problem, the extra work we deal with now, the issues poor homeowners have with dealing with properties, dealing with problems on properties. I have one, reverse mortgages, as you know, they record 2 loans. Every time there's a reverse mortgage, I shouldn't say that, they record 2 deeds of trust. The deed of trust is the loan document. So when a homeowner gets a reverse loan, one loan, they record the loan twice, 2 deeds of trust on the property. That's common. It's always done that way. The person has had 3 reverse mortgages. So they got a reverse mortgage. They put 2 deeds of trust on. They got a new one and paid that off. They only reconveyed 1. Now, to this day, there's still this old loan showing up on their property. Do you, as a buyer buying this house, want to buy this with this old loan from this person you probably don't even know? I think they're deceased now. Don't even know them.
Absolutely not.
Of course not. That needs to be cleared from the record. That's part of what we make sure happens as a title company. So now we have to go back and get this taken care of. This is the type of thing that the recon tracking fee paid for to be taken care of, or to make sure was taken care of in the past. Now homeowners are saving $35 to have a headache later. Would you rather pay $35 now or have a $10,000 headache in the future? You know, that's the problem. So I say I went on that. I'll get off my soapbox. I know.
No, you're good. You're passionate about it.
I'll get off my soliloquy because they're trying to cut out title insurance and the problems that I would see happening from this. I mean, I'll give you an example of, thankfully with title insurance, 90 something, maybe 90 or 80% of the work is in prevention. But there are claims, there are problems that can come up that it's impossible for anyone to know about.
Yeah. Yes.
For one, there's a delay in posting of documents. So if you record something today, that's not going to show up on the record till much later.
Correct.
For instance, in some states, okay, I'll give you an example. in where was that property? In Chicago. I bought a property a few years ago. We closed escrow on November 1st. The document transferring title to me did not record until November 20th. So that means it's not proven on the public record that I'm the owner until November 20th.
Wow.
Now, what covers me during that time period is what they call gap title insurance coverage. It's part of the title insurance, gap coverage.
Okay.
So if the title insurance goes away, does that gap coverage go away? What would present, and I don't even want to say this because I don't want to give anybody any ideas about fraud they could do, but you can imagine the problems that can happen if the document doesn't even show up on the record for 20 days.
Right.
That's just really scary to me. And so, there's all these things, if something, there are claims, I can give you examples of claims where, here in LA County, if we record something today, we won't see it on the record till probably 7 to 14 days. So what if yesterday a lawsuit recorded on the property or a new lien recorded on the property or something like that? Now today we're going to close. There is no way humanly possible on earth that any title company would know that recorded. So we close and insure a sale today. New homeowner buys the property. Now the seller's lien, which is a valid lien, attached to the property yesterday. That's a problem. That's a problem.
I just had a buyer reach out to that. He sent me, he showed me the tax lien, the county tax lien on the estate. It was a probate. And he says, hey, can you help with this? Right. And I'm like, so I'm processing like, why? And then I go, naturally, it's not possible to catch everything when we're in escrow and close and in that closing window, and then something records. It's like, so with that, so now here's more of a specific question with the process or logistics while in escrow / settlement, while we're in that period, does title do another check before recording? Because we heard some of the stories of things being pulled.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Every file that's recording, like in LA County, we set up everything today for recording for tomorrow. There's some counties where you can set it up today and record today. But in LA County, we set it up for today to record tomorrow. Every transaction before we push the button to say, yes, county recorder, record this, we have to check to get the most current record available to verify, is there anything else new that's happened? And there's been plenty of stories of, the seller has this lien that just popped up, or seller didn't pay their taxes. They just reported
my deals.
Yeah, those things happen. So that's one type of risk. There's other risks that, mechanics liens go back to the date the work started. So what if the seller wanted to spruce things up before they sell the property? So they had the bedroom painted, and they're supposed to pay that off. I'm just going to use some dates. They're supposed to pay that contractor by, July 30th. And you close the sale on August 1st. So August 1st comes around, the contractor's not paid. He gives the guy a little bit more time. By August 31st, he's like, hey, he hasn't paid me. I'm going to file a mechanics lien. Well, guess what? That mechanics lien is filed a month after you closed escrow. But by law, that mechanics lien takes a lien position from the date the work started.
Wow.
What if you started that work in June, a month before you even bought the property? That lien is valid on that property to the date of June when he started the work. So that's before you even bought it. You have, as a buyer, you have no way of knowing that went on because the seller is associated with that buyer. Right. The title company, the escrow company, the real estate agents, they have no way of knowing. When I walk in, I don't know if, number one, I don't know if the wall is just really clean or if it was just painted. I can't tell when it was painted. Number two, if it was just painted, I don't know if you paid that contractor or not. Number three, I don't know if that contractor paid his worker, because the worker, you could pay the contractor could pay the subcontractor doesn't pay the worker can file the mechanics lien. That's the way the law works. That's the way California law works. So bottom line is, it's impossible to know about all the potential risks, but your title insurance covers you for some of these risks. Okay. So to not have, it's a small amount to pay, to pay that small amount of, I mean, I know it looks large when you're looking at a closing statement, but put it in relation to the size of the property. I'm buying a $1.2 million property and I'm paying $3,000 for title insurance. When you look at the risk reward,
Correct.
pay $3,000 to be covered for up to 1.2 million. Man, I mean, to me, it just doesn't make sense to even consider removing that, especially when you look at all the risks. So I would look, Lisa, call the president, call the head of the CFPB, call all these parties that you can, give them my number, and I will talk to them and get it straightened out so they don't do something stupid like say, buyers no longer pay for title insurance. That would not be a smart move.
That would not be a smart move because, again, we're talking about our most vulnerable population or demographic of people who are making one of the largest investments in their lives. They don't understand all the intricacies, which is why they're professionals who are offering our services and our recommendations. And it's not like saying you must do this, you have to do this, but it's more so of due diligence as to, if you don't do these things, then it could become a bigger issue than not. And so
can I give another example?
Absolutely. And then we'll wrap up. And then I want you to give us your best recommendation in terms of title.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And the reason I want to give this recommendation is because, I don't know what percentage of transaction these problems happen on. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 10%, I don't know. And it's all fine. If you're in that 80%, you think, oh, I'm all good. But if you're in the 20, it's a big problem. When these things come up, it's a big problem. So let me give this example. Okay, there was a transaction we closed, and I don't remember the exact year, but it was around 2021. Seller had several lien issues. One of them was an attorney that had some liens on the property. And this attorney had two liens. One of them he removed, and the other one, there was a lien there, and we paid the lien. We paid the lien exactly as prescribed in their requirements on their document that they gave us. So everything's taken care of. Everything's perfectly fine, right?
Right.
Buyer buys the property, and later, this attorney is very rogue. This attorney is, I don't know anything about attorney licenses, but I got to imagine it should have been a violation on his license, should have been an ethical violation, probably a legal violation. I mean, big problem. The attorney, we do everything as prescribed, and the attorney says, I'm not removing that lien. So fast forward 2 years later, again, everything was done right. He removed one, we paid the other. So those two liens should be cleared from the property. But the party that removes the lien is the party that is the owner of that lien, right? So we got the money, they remove the other lien, but they don't want to remove the second lien. So fast forward, the owner of the buyer at that during that transaction, it wasn't their lien, it was the seller's lien, right? Buyer buys the property. 2 years later, the buyer on that transaction is now the seller. They want to sell. And guess what we find out? That attorney never removed that lien. It took a lawsuit to remove it. Now, here's the wonderful thing about title insurance. Our company, we had insured that first transaction. So our company steps in. That buyer did not even have to get an attorney. We got all the details of the situation, looked at everything on the file. We filed a lawsuit against that attorney. Our high-end, high-priced attorneys went in and got the judge to rule that lien is gone. We got the documents to remove it. We filed it. That lien is gone from the property. The owner of that property, the buyer during that first transaction, who later was the seller, did not have to come out of pocket a dime. Our title company paid all of that. And you can imagine with cost today, I have no idea what it costs. I don't know if it's $2,000 or $5,000. I mean, when you have attorneys do some work, it hits thousands instantly. So
very quickly. Some won't touch it on, the retainer. We're in California, so anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 on just retainers before they lift a pen. So
so any claim like that comes in, whatever we made as a title insurance policy, all that money's probably gone and more because of the claim. But the point is the protection that buyer did. No one in the transaction did anything wrong other than the lien holder against that seller, which, the buyer doesn't even know them or anything. So no one did anything wrong. We did everything the right way. Everything was done perfectly. All the documentation was in the file. Yet we have a rogue lien holder who causes this problem. And so the title insurance stepped in and made everything right. My point is, those are things that you can, some of the claims are things that you cannot predict, you cannot prevent. and that coverage, that title insurance protected that party from having to spend the thousands that it took to get this issue removed from the property.
I think that's a fantastic example. I was careful to answer the question, ask you the question about it. So I love how the universe it brought it in, because it's the best way to highlight what title insurance, because I've seen when clients have had to activate the claim. And that means now we've got titles attorneys stepping in to now fight some of these issues. So there we go. For those of you who are saying, I don't need it, I don't want it, I'll save a couple $100, $1,000, whatever, depending on the size of the purchase. Listen, be very, very careful, especially in an industry that is rampant with fraud. Kevin, close us out. Let us know, what is your best tip when it comes to, so let's talk to our agents folks here. Give our agents here who are tuning in. We've got a lot of colleagues, a lot of some that you've worked with, some that are hearing you from the first time and saying, oh, I might want to check Kevin out. He's got a wealth of knowledge. Best tip when they're working with their clients as it relates to title insurance.
Best tip I can say is always choose a title company and escrow company that you're familiar with working with, that you know how they work, and that is knowledgeable at what they do. If you work with someone like me, I'm a rep. There's a title officer involved in management and all that, but I'm fully 100% an advocate for you and for closing the deal. And so that's why my job is solely based on, and my compensation is solely based on, if transactions close. So I have your best interest in mind, because your best interest is to close the deal as a realtor. So work with someone like me who's knowledgeable, who I know what I'm doing. I know underwriting guidelines at my company and other title companies. I've been in the industry long enough. And my whole thing is I help you get your deal closed. If you work with someone like that, we're going to be good at solving problems, because anyone can close the easy ones. The easy ones are easy, right? But on those challenging situations, when there's a title issue or something comes up, that's when we really got to roll our sleeves up and dig in and help you get the deal done.
I appreciate you, Kevin. That's well said, well shared. And for those of you who are tuning in, just catching us live, we're out of here. You got to catch the replay. Okay. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share on your favorite podcast platforms anywhere. Kevin, thank you again for your time, your energy, and I appreciate what you've contributed to the industry. And I look forward to closing many more, thousands of deals to come.
Let's do it for sure.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're signing off, and have a powerful, productive week. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel, right here on Ready, Set, Real Estate. Take care, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Ready, Set, Real Estate podcast with Lisa Gillett, the LA Super Agent. Please like, subscribe, and share LA Super Agent